welcome to the show, and welcome to episode 167. Alright, guys, we are here again. I'm just gonna have it's a nice, peaceful day outside, and we're just gonna have a nice conversation. As I was telling her off air, I got a new microphone, and it started to pick up a lot of sounds, which is really freaky right now because I didn't know it was gonna be this strong, but so be it. But our next guest, I found her through a friend and a former guest, Crystal, who had a guest goddess who was on, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, maybe a month or two ago even. That was her recommendation, and I try to support her in all her groups and all the things that she different her little endeavors that she does. So, and she gave me a list of some people I should have on, and our next guest is one of them. And so we're gonna try to get her to talk because she can be quiet. But you want us to tell us your name and a little about yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Talia Woodard, and I am from Texas, and I am a licensed massage therapist, and I just kind of try to do as much as I can within the blind community. I'm legally blind, so I try to play my role in that and kind of give back to my community as much as possible. So,
For sure.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember if I told you I'm also legally blind, so something we definitely have in common. Do you know what condition have you gotten it from?
Yeah, so when I was 7, I had a brain tumor, and so it's just classified as optic nerve atrophy. So the brain tumor kind of wrapped itself around my optic nerve and slowed down the blood flow to my eyes. So, yep, that's,
Isn't it like
that's pretty much that.
no, I hear you. Yeah, but isn't it kind of freaky like how the body is just so, no pun intended in your case, twisted? Like it's
Right, exactly. It's like, you
one
know,
yeah, one thing is off and all of a sudden something else happens. Like you wouldn't imagine because people I guess a lot of people don't understand how connected everything is. Uh,
right, exactly.
even just like your brains and your eyes, like you just imagine, okay, a tumor, cool. All right, a lot of people get
Yeah,
tumors and
exactly.
you don't imagine losing your
And,
sight over it.
right, and the crazy part is like it started with just a headache, and I, went from a headache to no vision. So, you wouldn't think that a headache or a migraine would be the cause or the outcome of a tumor.
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be very surreal. I'm sure you remember that, like the horrible
Right.
headache that you had, and then all of a sudden, I don't know, like how do you know? Do you kind of remember how it all played out?
Yeah. So it was like I was 6 years old when I started getting the headaches and migraines, and I saw my doctor, and he was like, "Oh, it's growing pains. You're a kid, you're growing." And I was like, "Okay, whatever." And then slowly, like over time, I just started losing vision. It went from not being able to read my handwriting or to see what was up on the whiteboard, or like just seeing things in front of me. There's a chain link fence that surrounded the playground whenever I was in school, and I used to be able to run and see it and avoid it, and go into the little opening that we had to get to the playground, and then just slowly, day by day, it was like I could see it, and then every day it was just a different decrease in my vision. Like I could see it to not being able to see it at all, to having to follow people to figure out where I was going. So yeah, it was just a steady decline in vision. So
Sure. Yeah, you said you knew about like this was happening to you when you were a child, but when did you actually get a diagnosis? Like what was wrong with you?
so I got a diagnosis at the end of my second grade year. I was 7. It was like in May 2007, I believe. Yeah, May 2007. And I went back to the same doctor that told me it was growing pains, and my mom was like, "No, it's something more. We need to see an ophthalmologist now." And we did, and he looked in my eyes, and he was just like, "Yeah, something's going on. She needs to be rushed to have emergency surgery because it's not looking good." So,
Were
yeah.
you able to like because you were so young, were you able to comprehend like what was happening to you? Because like mine started when I was 4, and it was from a
Right.
high allergic reaction to medication.
Mhm.
And so all my skin burned off, and a lot of things happened to me, and just I was like melting. But even though
Right.
I was going through this and I was in immense pain, when I was able to be like numb from the medication and things, I was able to just kind of enjoy my childhood and still just be me.
Mhm.
I didn't really fully understand like my situation until I kind of became a teenager, where you're trying to date, and kids make fun of you and you get bullied. And so like, when were you able to kind of pick up on like what was really happening to you?
I don't think I was really able to fully understand everything. Yeah, like you said, until I was a teenager, and even then, it was like a lot of research and questions that I had for doctors and my mom, and trying to figure things out because it's like, why did this happen? I don't understand. Like when they told my mom, what was going on, I'm only 7. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm going back to school, no problem, cool. We're gonna fix this later.
Right.
And then, just to be put in the back of an ambulance, it's like, no, this is now. This is happening now. So I didn't fully understand until I was a teenager, like what was actually like the cause of my vision loss. I just knew when I got out of the hospital, like, okay, this is my life now. I can't see as well as I used to, and things are going to change. So,
Yeah, no, for sure. Because I know, yeah, I mean, because a lot of people have said like, oh, you were just such a brave kid, and I'm like,
mm-hmm.
it's not that I wasn't. It's just I also didn't know better either. Like I was
Right,
afraid. I was really worried for what was happening to me because I was in so much pain. But when I wasn't in pain, or when I was able to kind of numb myself from it with my toys and music and just, like zenfully just, zone out, I didn't
mm-hmm.
really think about any of that stuff. And then until like the world kind of let me know that I was different. Uh,
Right,
and that's like something me and my friend were talking about the other day, and I've discussed it here with multiple people with many different disabilities. A lot of times the disability isn't the hardest part. Like we tend to think it is
mm-hmm.
because it sucks. You're losing a part of you, and it's like, yes, that is horrible. But
Right,
after a while, you kind of go, okay, this is what it is. Like even though like I'm sure I'm not gonna put words in your mouth, but like mine fluctuates from day to day. Like I never know if it's gonna be a good day, bad day, and that's really rough, and it's not fun. But the overall, like, it's fine. It's just how harsh the world can be, and how hard things are when you have a disability, and it's just how life impacts you negatively that makes the
right,
disability so
exactly.
much harder.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, I would say as someone who's 8 years old, after my surgery and everything, getting back into school, I would say like things weren't that hard. Being in class wasn't hard. I think it was the people isolating me and not wanting to talk to me, and the people that were my friends just the previous school year, are looking at me like I'm different. They don't know who I am anymore because I'm walking around with a cane and I have someone following me from class to class. So it was just like, you're treating me different from how you treated me a year before, or a couple months before. And it's like the comprehension for me wasn't there. Like, why are they treating me different? I'm the same person, but it was just because the thought of them not knowing what happened to me and not understanding that people are different, and just it just that was the hardest part for me, was accepting the fact that people were going to treat me different.
Yeah, it really kind of, I mean, no pun intended, but it really opens your eyes to how cold the
Right.
world can be, and just, how one little label can change everything. And
Exactly.
because you were young, you were still aware enough to, you remember when you didn't have this problem, or people weren't aware of your problem, how people treated
Hmm.
you, and then all of a sudden now this new thing has been added to your, life resume. It's like, oh, look,
Right.
you're this now, and now I can't be your friend like I wanted to, or now I have different questions for you, or you're like,
Hmm.
you're young, you don't really understand. You know it's wrong, but you don't really have the vocabulary and you're not articulate enough to just say, okay, this is stupid. But you know deep down it sucks because, you know, what has changed
Yeah.
minus the cane.
Right. Exactly.
Um, yeah, and again, like it's one of those things that a lot of people I don't think discuss enough is when you kind of have to mourn a certain part of you because you go through
Mhm.
once you're aware of all of it, you kind of have to go through this like numb phase where you're just like it's just there and like you don't feel anything and it's like yeah whatever and then at some point you're able to cry and you're able to just sit in darkness and just feel awful about it and once you're able to
Right.
come out of it, you know, for the ones who do, obviously there's some unlucky ones, but for the ones who do, it's you know, there is a lot of beautiful things that can come from it, but it does take a
Mhm.
while. And I mean, I don't know for you, but like it gets old very fast being visually impaired. I will say.
Right. Right.
I'm not gonna say like that's why I never try to come on here and like glorify like oh my god because some people try to pretend very hard that there's no shame and
Mhm.
we're not insecure and all these things. I have that. I
Mhm.
100% do. Am I more secure in myself and do I still love my disability to some degree? Yeah. Like, am I proud of everything I've gotten through? Sure. But I also like, do I want to do this every day? No. There's days where I get up and I'm
Right.
just like, come on, please, not today.
Mhm. Right. Exactly.
And yeah, I mean, so what do you do? I mean, so I guess I should ask first. Does your vision does it fluctuate from day to day?
It isn't. I wouldn't necessarily say it fluctuates. My vision has been stable since I lost it.
Okay.
But I do have better days than other, just depending on lighting. If it's really bright outside, that's like a bad day for me. If it's raining outside, that's a bad day for me. So, and then if it's dark outside, that's horrible for me. So
Right.
it kind of depends on the day, really. Um, so, and that kind of just determines on, you know, am I going to run into things today or am I going to trip over things today? Like that kind of will determine that. But
Sure. Yeah. Try to explain. So I think our vision's somewhere similar. The rain
mhm.
doesn't bother me, but like it is very hard to explain to people like lighting because it's like, oh, so you just don't like being in the dark. And it's like, no, I don't like being in the dark or the sun. It's like, well, what do you want to be in? It's like, well, there's even certain lightings that's dim, but like okay, let's say like a club. Like I'm not a club
Mhm.
person anyway, but like a club is awful for me because it's dark, but it has like the
Right.
strobe bright
The
lights that
strobe
are
light.
yeah, and it
Right.
just throws me off like crazy. And I've only been in a club once or twice in my life, but the time I went, I
Mhm.
hated it so bad because I'm like, this is
Yeah.
not the place for me. Um,
Right.
and yeah, it's kind of comical to explain it to anyone because it's like, well, you don't like the dark, you don't like the light, so what do you like? And it's like, well, I'd have to kind of show you because most places don't
Right.
have it.
Exactly.
And that's why I bought like I have my own custom like lights I can control with my phone,
Mhm.
and I can change them to any colors. So like a lot of times in the morning when I tell my you know I tell Siri to turn my phone or turn my lights on, they'll be like a dark red. Just
Mhm.
because in the morning, like I don't want a bright white light in my face. I would like something dark, um, but something I can at least see in. But at least it's you know, like I said, it has a darker color. That's
Mhm.
more. It's easier for my eyes to kind of accept it and slowly kind of come into place and be good enough for me to get through the day.
Right. Exactly.
But yeah, it's like I said when I say it's not fun. There's fun. I mean, look, it is days that humbles you like every day because I don't know, but I don't know about
Mhm.
you, and I have days where sometimes I forget I'm visually impaired, not because like I'm having an amazing eye day, but like okay, I'm
Right.
having a good eye day for me, but still like I'm
Right.
just kind of like this is cool. And I'm just accepting that everything is blurry. Like I'm just like,
Mhm.
yeah, the tree over there is blurry, so it's blurry for everyone else too, right? And then just something just goes through my head and just kind of like someone threw like a coconut at me like hey dumbass like you know that tree's not supposed to be blurry right it's like oh yeah that's right.
Right.
It's
Right. Yeah.
like I said I don't know about you but it's definitely very humbling at the same time.
Yeah.
um so you've pretty much so you've had this you pretty much your whole life then.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah. Pretty much my whole life. So.
yeah I mean what do you kind of for like the bad days like mentally like what do you do to like prepare yourself for it because I mean even for me as long as I've been doing this as much as I feel like I'm a veteran at this, sometimes it
Hmm.
still kind of throws me for a loop and like knocks me on my ass.
Right. Um, I don't. I would say like for me, the one thing that I still, of course, everybody who's blind or visually impaired struggles with is the fact of not being able to get up and go as you please. And I feel like that's just the most frustrating part. But I mean, I've kind of just learned to accept everything. Um, so when I do have my bad days, I just take time to myself and just, just kind of, I don't know, I just chill. Like I just relax, just try to listen to music. Music calms me down. Like music is my go-to for everything. Um, or like I'll call someone and I'll vent about it. Usually like my mom, because they've been through this whole walk, this whole journey with me. So I
Right.
can call my mom or my grandma, and I'll just like talk to them and just let them know like I'm really upset right now, and this is why. And
Huh.
they'll listen, and they just let me get everything out, and they just remind me like, hey, it's gonna be okay. You've been doing this far, and it's just one obstacle that you got to move past. And that's it.
No,
So I would say I have a really strong support team. So
that's very important.
yeah.
Do you ever, because I do this and I know a bunch of us that do it, for those of us who our eyes fluctuate, do you ever have those days when, let's say, you're having back to back bad days? Do you feel like, oh, this is like it, like my eyes are getting worse and this is how it's going to stay? Even if it's like a short, spurt of a thought. Like, do you ever go through that headspace?
No, I think just for me because like I said, this is I think about 15 going on 16 years for me, and I haven't had a fluctuation in my vision.
Okay.
Um, so I feel like I'm kind of on the luckier side of that. So I really don't go through that. But there are times where I do remember, like, hey, I remember I used to be able to see this or that, and now it's like, dang, it just looks different to me. Like for example, when I see trees look black to me. They don't even look green and brown or red or yeah, like they don't have any type of color to me. Um, and so there are times where I will like sit and reminisce and be like, I remember when I used to be able to see things like that. Um, and that part that does kind of bring me down sometimes. But I will say like I try not to let it bother me just because I am grateful for the remaining vision that I do have, because had had we not, found the tumor when we did, I mean, I could be totally blind. I could have no vision. So
Yeah, yeah, for
I
sure.
just have to kind of remind myself of that, like, hey, just be grateful for what you do have.
Yeah, and I mean, it helps you once you're able to like kind of tame it and understand like the beast of this whole thing. You're able to
Hmm.
understand it more because I mean, I'm sure you've interacted with plenty of blind people,
Right.
and you realize what they go through is rough, and you see what they can do, and you're like, wow, like I can't even comprehend. Because there's times, even like last night, I was just going through I was just I don't know, it was like 2 in the morning. I was hungry. I didn't even want to get
Hmm.
up because I'm just in a fog, but I'm like, I need to eat something. I'm like, I'm gonna go make a bagel, and so I started to
Right.
make my bagel, and I was gonna turn the lights on, which would have just killed my eyes. And I'm like,
Right.
I'm gonna try to do this in the dark. I'm like, plenty of other people do it. Why can't I do it? Like it's not.
Right.
I mean, it's not easy because I haven't done it, but I can do it. I know I can, and I just have to remember like
Hmm.
there's plenty of people like I'm lucky enough to from any I'm lucky enough to have a place that has power. I mean, I'm lucky enough to have a place. I'm
Right.
lucky enough to be able to see whatever. But yeah, I mean, and it is key to take those bad days that we were referring to. It's key to take them and do something with it, even if it's nothing like super productive, but like thought process wise, where you're just constantly like rewiring and just working on yourself and thinking about like when this does subside, what I can do with
Hmm.
my time. Because I think a lot of times people don't. We're so like lost in the when are we going to get back to normal, and then when we get back to normal, like the things that we promised ourselves we were going to do, we don't do it. And it's like even if it's like doing your
Right.
dishes or whatever, making a call or doing something, trying to find a new job, whatever it is, we
Hmm.
kind of we just talk ourselves into just kind of hanging on by a thread down there in the depths of the darkness. But then when we come out
Right.
of it, we're just like, oh, thank God we're done. And then everything that we should be doing that we promised ourselves, we don't do it after all.
Hmm.
because it,
Right.
and that's why I talk about mental health so much because it is so attached to having a disability. I always say it's like a,
Yeah, definitely.
it's just it's a part of the package. I always talk about like when you
Right.
get a car, like if you want, you know, automatic doors and GPS, you have to get this part because it's in the part of the package. Well, if you have a disability, mental health is a part of that package. You're just getting it. Um,
Right.
and so, how have you been able to navigate your mental health, just being a woman and just being, a person, just being with a disability, like, life? There's a lot of things get thrown at you all at once. Um,
Right.
yeah. How have you been able to
So
combat it?
yeah, so like whenever I first lost my vision, of course, going through depression at 8 years old, I didn't know what depression was. I just knew like I hated who I was. I hated life. Like it was it was really bad for me, and I had someone to talk to, but of course, I'm a kid. I'm 8. I didn't want to open up and just tell this person feelings that I didn't really understand. So it was hard for me to express, what I was going through, how I felt. Um, and then, going through public school, I had a teacher to teach me how to read Braille, and then I had someone to teach me, O&M. And so those those two ladies were like the only two I personally felt like I could express, what I was going through, and they would either understand or they would be able to sympathize with me. Talking to my family at that time, I was like, you don't understand. You don't know what I'm going through. You're just, you
Sure.
know, you're trying to treat me as if nothing happened or as if, you have to put me in a bubble. And, I was sheltered after I lost my vision. I wasn't allowed to do a lot of things. And then when I got into high school, that depression turned into anger, and I hated me. I hated myself. I hated people. And I was just an angry person. There's a lot of things I hated about myself. I was very insecure about a lot of things with myself. And then it wasn't until I got out of high school that I told myself like, I don't want to hate myself. I don't want to be angry with everybody. I want to change who I am. So it just I ended up opening myself and talking to people and just expressing, that's where I ended up building a relationship with my mom because, even though my mom is there all day, every day, growing up as a kid, like I didn't talk to my mom. She didn't know how I felt, what I was going through. I just kind of distanced myself from my family. I stuck to myself. I would stay in my room and listen to audiobooks or just, lay down and sleep all day. And I just didn't want to talk to anybody. And so like after high school, I started talking to my mom more and I started telling her, hey, like, this is how I've been feeling. This is how I feel now. And I don't want to be like this anymore. And just having that person to open up and talk to and just, you know, I know in a way it's kind of selfish, but like dumping your emotions on somebody else so you can feel, less weight on your shoulders. Like it was a good release for me. And my mom, being a mom, she didn't know what I was going through. So having, being able to tell her that and letting her understand, how I felt, what I was feeling, it not only helped me become not so angry and, accepting of my life and that I still can move forward and be successful as a blind person, but also building that connection and relationship with my mom. Like that was something that helped me out significantly because, it went from us not talking at all to us talking, every couple of days or every week. And like now me and my mom talk every day for hours.
Yeah.
So like for me, that was just the best outlet.
Yeah, and you talk about like dumping all your emotions and feelings on, but like I'm sure that was so like it's such a reprieval for her because all this time had gone by and she knew maybe in vain like a little bit of what you were going through, but not entirely because
Right.
she I mean she may be your mother, she may be the closest thing to knowing what you're going through, but she doesn't really know because she doesn't have your issue. So
Exactly.
and that's why it was key to find those people along the way who were training you and teaching you different techniques to how to deal with your blindness. But it's always key to have someone who knows you entirely because again, that's one of the big things that I try to focus on is trying to make sure to find that person out there who feels alone and try to hopefully
Hmm.
find someone. If it's not me, try to find someone to have on the show that will, open up their eyes to what's possible and what isn't possible, and just, again, being alone in that kind of,
Right.
because it is easily, having a disability, even though blindness is so, it's not uncommon. I mean, it's
Right.
it's more rare than just, your average person probably isn't going to become blind, but of the
Hmm.
disabilities, blindness is, pretty. It's easy to find someone with some sort of visual impairment that you can talk to. Um,
Right.
and so, yeah, it's just key to constantly try to communicate and find those people. But yeah, when you're kind of, actually as a teenager, you're growing up and you're trying to find yourself, and you're trying to figure out if you're even attractive, and if there's anything about you that's even redeeming, and then you
Right.
always end up coming back to your broken eyes, like, oh, well, of course I'm ugly because of this, and it's like,
Exactly.
it doesn't mean that, but it's hard to shake that, because it's constantly
Right.
in the back of your mind. And I'm sure even just being as a woman, just because looks matter more to you than typical guy, where like
Exactly.
and like your beauty is almost like defined by your vision, which is silly, but we've all been
Hmm.
there.
Exactly. Yeah.
And and that's where it's kind of funny, because pun intended, is where like your mindset technically just becomes blind, because you can't see the most
Right.
basic things until you kind of, as some people say, like tap into your superpower and realize like the visual part of it, there is something to us that is amazing. It's just because we can see a lot of things that most people can't see, because people are so biased on in life, and
Hmm.
and we have empathy, and there's a lot of things that we have that we don't even understand it until one day it just pops up and it arises, and you're like, oh, okay,
Right.
this is something. This is, I didn't realize there was something special to this vision thing, because all I've said my whole life is this sucks, and
Right.
it's not great, but the fact that we can take something that we perceive to be so ugly and then actually turn it into something beautiful after a while. It's always one of my favorite parts of discussing about having a disability.
Right. Exactly.
And you said you've done a lot, like talking to people. Like, have you done any kind of advocacy or anything with visual impairment or disabilities?
I haven't done any like actual advocacy that I can just throw out there, but I do like I do know a lot of people within the blind community, and I'm always trying to help. I always tell people like if you need help doing this or that, like let me know. Um, Sometimes like when so actually my job, my boss, he got me connected with this lady in Louisiana who recently lost her vision. He was just like, she just needs somebody to talk to. So it's like, even though I don't necessarily say like, oh yes, I'm an advocate for blind people, I always just let people know like I'm here for you no matter what, because if anybody knows what you're going through, it's someone who literally has walked every day in your shoes. So
Yeah, no, that's so key for especially someone who's a newcomer to it, because that's when it's the most scariest, and it's so that's when the loneliness kicks in, and you're just sitting
right.
there, and you just want someone to understand, and everyone around you is telling you that they understand and that it's going to be okay,
But they don't.
but they don't, and you don't feel like it's going to be okay. You feel like your world's on
Right.
fire and there's no going back.
Exactly.
And though everything's different, like different is just terrible, and it's scary. There's no way to like shake it and just immediately ignore it and say that it's not scary. It is. It's scary to know that your whole life is different, and everything you
Right.
have to adjust and figure out ways to make your life acclimated to your situation. It can be very
Hmm.
very difficult, but there again, the more and more we go into this technological world that we're in, this is becoming less and less excuses for us to survive. I mean, there's many reasons that get in the way, how hard it is to find a job and things like that. But just as far as just your daily life, there's so much there that can actually, people that can, and there's so many services now that are provided that can definitely help you just navigate life much easier than it would be many, 30, 40 years ago.
Hmm. Exactly.
So do you have any kind of, like, what is your goal for just like further down the road in life? Are you gonna do anything with any kind of advocacy, or are you just looking to, I don't know, is there something you want to do just revolving around your disability to give back?
Um, there's actually so much that I want to do, like within the blindness community. I definitely want to do advocacy. I am right now. I'm a massage therapist, and I don't know if you're aware, but um, within pregnancy and blind families or blind parents, um, you're when you go to the hospital to have your child, and it's a blind mom and a blind dad, and you're alone and you're there by yourself, 9 times out of 10, the hospital is going to send a social worker in your room, and they're going to attempt to take your baby from you because they believe that blind people cannot successfully raise a child.
Yeah.
And so, as a massage therapist, my focus is pre and postnatal infant massage, and I am in the process right now of becoming a doula specifically for blind and visually impaired moms. So not only can I be there for their birth, but also be there as an advocate, to make sure that their children don't get taken throughout this process because, anybody can be a parent. Over time, people lose their vision due to things like diabetes. You can be in a car accident and lose your vision. Anything can happen and you can lose your vision, or, you can lose your hearing. It's like, why is it okay for people who are on drugs to keep their kids, but you lose something like your vision and you're no longer fit to be a parent? So that's kind of my goal, is to advocate for blind parents. And then also with my massage career, I want to open my own parenting facility to offer, accessible parenting classes and, just different ways of how to tell, if your kid is choking as a blind parent, how to tell if you go to a public place like a park, how to keep track of your kid without having to stand up every 10 seconds and yell your kid's name across the park and hope that they answer. I want to offer programs like that so that way blind parents, especially if they're new blind parents, can be more confident going into this and not have the fear of social services coming and taking their kids because, they feel like they did something wrong, or they were made to think that they did something wrong. So,
Did you have kids yourself?
I actually don't have kids. So, it's kind of up in the air for me. I have something called PCOS due to my brain tumor.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no guarantees that I will actually be able to have kids myself. So because of that, that's so, I don't know, I guess that's why it takes a bigger part in my life to advocate for people who can have kids.
Yeah, for sure it does. Because, you could make the argument that why should you care? Because it's like,
exactly.
It's not something it's not going to impact you at all. It's not going to affect you at all. And that's why I love, I interview people more than just disabilities, but why disability is so important to me, because it's like, again, I say this ad nauseum, but we're perceived to be these broken people but for some reason we're always the one that are trying to fix and trying to help. And even in areas that we don't even quite understand, or we can't even experience. And that's kind of the beautiful part that comes from it all.
Right.
But no, that sounds pretty cool. So when you, it may sound like a stupid question, but when you get clients and you're doing the whole massage therapy, do you ever broadcast that you're visually impaired?
So I don't openly just say, "Hey, I'm visually impaired," but in my job, whenever I work in a public place, I always use my cane. If it's like a spa setting, I'll use my cane. One of my jobs, I used to work at the airport here in Austin. That's where I'm at. I used to work in the airport, and to get to my job, I would use my cane. So pretty much all the employees in the airport, if they knew me, they knew I was visually impaired or blind. But whenever I got to my job, I wouldn't use my cane. So customers would come up and, they would say off the wall things like, "Who are you talking to? I'm right here and you're looking over there," because my eyes don't focus. And I would have to explain to them "Hey, I'm legally blind, but I'm trying to help you." So the attitude down. So that was the only time I guess I wouldn't just broadcast or use my cane. But now I've kind of gotten the habit of just having my cane with me, even if I know the area, because people are just ignorant in their own way, and they're not open to the thought of hey, I'm not going to comment on this because I don't know what's going on with this person, or what they have, whether it's a disability or maybe their eyes just don't focus, anything. But people just openly make comments like that, and they don't understand, like, it can be hurtful or just rude in general. So
Oh yeah. It's when people try to predict like how, because when they look at when they think vision problem, again, you either look blind or you don't look blind to somebody. You're either like you get perceived to be as dumb, or like if you're looking the wrong direction, now you're the rude one, and there's so many things that go into it. It's like, just try to understand a little bit. I understand you can't fully comprehend, but it's not that hard if you just listen. But
exactly.
yeah, but I could imagine, like, because all our senses are really stronger, I can imagine being good at that job because we tend to be good with our hands, and because we
Right.
know sense of touch is it's so much more sensitive to us. Um,
Right.
I was talking to my friend, and he's always, I don't drink, but he's always trying to get me to drink things. And I hate the taste of alcohol, just the actual, just
Yeah.
alcohol. And he'll give me things, and he was talking to his girlfriend because she was like, "Well, let's take him out. I want him to try a White Russian." And I'm like, "Okay." I'm like, "I'll try anything, but I'm not gonna like it." And he was like, "Sweetie, I think the reason why he doesn't like it is because he just has that like super sense of taste that like he automatically can just pick up alcohol because it's just his taste is so much more sensitive than ours. So whereas the
Mhm.
average person probably can just drink a crap load of that and never taste it until either the end or never taste it. Where in my case, like I taste it right away. Like
Right.
I said, our senses are so much stronger. My hearing, like when
Exactly.
I can't really go to concerts and things because my hearing is so strong that like it's just the sound is too much for me.
Hmm.
'Cause I don't like a lot of loud noises, but like yeah, even my sense of touch, like I could probably imagine you being really good at that because of it's you're using your other senses to help your life out.
Right.
But no, that's cool. At least you have some real set goals and like, I mean, you told me this off air, but like you said, you're like introverted. Does that like affect what you do for a job because you like to kind of be to yourself, but you kind of in order to make money, you have to deal with people.
Right. No, I feel like it doesn't really affect my career. And that's the one thing people will say, well, how do you manage as an introvert in massage therapy? You have to be a people person. Well, I mean, if you're a client and you're coming in for a service, or whatever I'm offering, I have great customer service skills, and it's not that. It's just I am not the type of person. I don't like to go out to parties and mingle with people and things like that, like I like to say to myself. But massages, to me, it's a passion. So, talking to someone, hearing what their problems are and trying to help them, that's, I feel like, what my calling is to help people,
Sure.
whether it be in massage or in another way. So I'm open to talking to my clients. And then also, when they get on the table, 9 times out of 10, they want to relax. They don't want to talk. So you ask them a couple times, like, hey, how's the pressure? You doing okay? Yes. And then after that, you're just quiet throughout the whole session. You leave them alone, they leave you alone, and that's it. So there's not really a lot of communication that happens when it comes to massage therapy. Only at the beginning, you have, your intro session of talking and seeing what the client needs, and then at the end, which is really just kind of feedback for your client, telling them like, hey, this is what I noticed, this is some stretches or exercises I think you should do to kind of help whatever you have going on. Or for me, if it's a prenatal client and they're telling me like, oh, I'm having this and that problem, I'll suggest things for them to do, or whatever the case may be. But other than that, there's not a whole lot of just communicating and engaging. And then also, it's a one-on-one setting. I don't feel overwhelmed with having to meet 50 different people at one time. It's just one person at a time for a set amount of time.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's kind of like you being at home, like it's your safe and happy space. So even though you're interacting with
Exactly.
people, it's what you love and it's what you went to school for. It's why you got trained for it,
Right.
and it's something that makes you happy because it's your way of impacting your community and helping.
Right.
So that's good. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because it may not to some because it's like, well, you're still dealing with people, but no,
Right.
you're dealing people with in a vulnerable space, and yeah, they're less likely to communicate, and they just kind of want what they came for, their service, and they just want to be taken care of. You're helping them out, and in the end, they're helping you out by just being there, and then also giving you money, but also just being there and listening and talking and just accepting you and trusting you to work on them. So there's a lot of things that go into it that actually I could see how it can give you great feedback and make you feel good about yourself.
Right.
We can kind of wrap up here, but is there any do you have? I mean, I always like to let the guests, and I always just like freestyle the whole thing. But do you have any advice for someone who's like coming up, a younger version of you, just struggling with their disability? And if you want to make it basically about visual impairment, that's fine.
Um. Well, I mean, just not even visually impaired because I grew up as a poor kid in the country, so
Sure.
just whether it's visual impairment or just coming up from your situation, I always just say, you take it one day at a time and set small goals for yourself and try to achieve one small goal at a time. Because if you put too much on your plate, you'll never finish it. And you just got to look at things in smaller portions instead of one whole goal, because then you're going to get stressed and overwhelmed, and you'll feel like I can never finish what it is that I'm trying to do, or I can never accomplish what my goals are. If you take it one thing at a time, you'll be more successful, whether it's being visually impaired and trying to be successful, or whether it's coming up from nothing to something, or less than what you have to being more than that. Just one day at a time, one small piece at a time. So.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean it's always key to hear people's opinions on how they deal with their struggles, and advice they can give to someone, because there's a lot of people that are struggling in many different ways. It doesn't have to be a disability or poverty. It can be
Exactly.
many things, and it's just always good to know there's someone out there that made it uh,
Right.
beyond their struggles and their demons and so on. But yeah, I appreciate you for coming on. You're a very sweet girl, and if you ever, I always sell this to the guests, but if you ever need a friend or ever need someone to talk to, I'm always around. Um,
Thank you.
I hope we can keep in touch. If
Yeah, for sure.
you ever need anyone to support you or anything you're doing, just please reach out. Um, you know,
Okay.
but yeah, thank you
Sounds
again.
good.
Yeah, I really
Yeah,
appreciate your
thank
time.
you for having me.
Of course, anytime, and I'll text you soon, and we'll keep in touch.
All right.
All right, thank you. Bye. All right, guys. I'm sorry. I'm a little sleepy today, and I don't even know how this is gonna sound because I got this new mic, and uh yeah, I'm just trying to figure it all out. But I'm really sleepy. I need a nap. As I'm jealous as this little furry demon next to me is napping. He's passed out, so no purring for him. So I apologize for that. But yeah, I'm thinking I'm just gonna take a little nappies. My eyes are really sensitive and sore right now because of I got some lashes pulled, and the lashes were bugging me for some days, and they did a little scratching. No scratches, but they did some scratching. Okay. Why I did a southern accent? I don't know. Maybe because she's from Texas and it's contagious. I don't know. But I'm gonna get out of here. I apologize. I'm not depressed or anything. I'm just kind of ran down, a little tired. So forgive me. I hope you can understand and feel my pain. But yeah, I hope you guys are doing well out there, and I will see you on the next show. Bye, guys.